Woohoo! We are live. Woohoo! Talking video games.
Yes.
At least before the show.
Yeah, we're such gamers.
I used to be a gamer. In the 90s, I could be accused of being a gamer. But beyond that, no. Once everything went online, I was no longer a game. And I noticed a distinction between like people my age and people maybe 15, 20 years younger. In that I remember the first live video game I played was on the Dreamcast. And who else had a Dreamcast? Thomas from the bullpen and Johnny, I think. And we had to go, oh, let's get on at 11 at night. And we'd get on and play a little. Or maybe a few years later, we were playing once again. Some bullpenners and I were playing football games. Like, oh, let's play the football game. But we only played with each other. Like the idea of going on and playing with strangers was such a weird thing to us that we didn't do it.
It took a
But
very
people
long
like
time before I would even attempt to play with other people online, people who I didn't know.
yeah, but now it's like I can remember it must be 20 years ago now that one of my friend's kids came over and he oh, you got can I play your Xbox? I'm like, sure. He just jumped on, signed on, and played with whoever was there. It was like that's just completely normal to them. Which to me, to someone our age was like, what? You're just going to play with strangers online? What do you say to them? What did it? There's all these like social implications for us.
Yeah, because we were told don't talk to strangers, don't get into strangers' cars.
Yeah.
Now we got apps to get us to go into strangers' cars.
But for the younger, they didn't even talk. They would either half the time they wouldn't even put the headphones on. They didn't care. Good evening.
I prefer doing it that way because I would just play the games without talking to people. I didn't want to talk to people. I still don't want to talk to people. So going on a game and talking to a stranger, it's like, oh, yeah, I don't want to do that.
But it's completely normal to just go on and not talk to anyone too. Jared, we only played with each other, Osborne. Yes. And when we no longer could play live too, because we used to all kind of be in the same area and we play video games against each other at someone's apartment.
Yeah.
When that era kind of ended, that my interest in video games kind of ended. Timey-wimey limey is here too.
Welcome.
Did you make it to the comic shop this week, Wilson?
I did not.
Ooh.
I was sitting here hoping to go today, and it's one of those freelancers. The last 2 weeks, everything kind of been due at the same time, so things just kind of not necessarily piled on each other, but they did. It's just the nature of freelancing because there was projects that I started months ago. And then I was just waiting on either corrections or waiting on the artist. I don't know who I was waiting on. Penciler, the inker, the colorist, one of them. And one of the projects just took months to do when it's like normally it only takes like a month to do it. But these I don't know if that they're so far ahead. The artist just trickling in. And it's like, okay, so I'm working on this, I'm working on that. And then I'm in my Strive working. All of a sudden, it's like, hey, would you be able to have this by this time? Would you be able to have this by, almost like everybody knew, oh, we should ask for this all at the same time. 4 different clients. And of course, each one of them is my most important client. So I got to make sure that I at least appease them. It's like, okay, I'll have pages for you by this time. And, one of my main faults is thinking I could get it done quicker than I actually could. And I run into that, oh, I could get it done by Friday, not thinking that, you still got 3 other projects that are also due on Friday.
Werewolf by Lunchtime is here. What's up, guys? 2 hours sleep last night. Rico was protecting his home from another cat very loudly. Yawn. Oof. Oh, did you guys see today's comic book news? Boom Studios has a new editor-in-chief.
Yes, a matter of fact, I did read that a couple of hours ago before I got online. It's like, look at that.
Andy
Um,
Schmidt,
Andy,
Okay.
who worked with us at Marvel in the early 2000s, right?
yes. So I think almost every editor in chief from the major publishers we've worked for at Marvel,
Oh
except
yeah.
for Image. But over at DC, we have Marie.
Marie,
We
yeah.
worked with her. Marvel has CB Sabowski.
Mm-hmm.
Boom has, as you said, Andy. And of course Mike Martz is over at
Mad
Paper
Cave.
Cuts, at
Yeah,
Mad
Mad
Cave.
Cave.
Yes. So it's
Salicrup is at Paper Cuts. If he's still
well,
there.
no. Salicrup left.
He left.
Paper
Okay.
Cut is also under Mad Cave now.
Okay.
So
Oh,
Mike
that's
Martz
right.
is
They've
also the
Mad
editor
Cave
of
bought.
Paper
So
Cuts. Yes.
Mike Morris.
How old is Sally Krupp?
I do
Ooh.
not know age-wise.
He's up around retire. I think he's like 10 years older than me. So he's probably in his mid 60s.
Okay, because
Even
the
late.
interview that they published in the Phoenix the Untold Story in 1984
Uh-huh.
was conducted by him, featuring Wheezy, who was still credited as Louise Jones,
Uh-huh.
and Roger Stern and Claremont, where they're discussing the Dark Phoenix saga's ending.
Okay.
So that was in 1984.
A long time ago. Wow.
Oh yeah. So it's wild that you got these guys who I remember were there as interns and whatnot, or just beginning around the same time.
Axel Alonso, isn't he running someplace now too?
Axel, last I heard, was running.
I forget which one.
I think it has a number like 215 Studios or something like that. I want to say, but I could be completely wrong.
Maybe it was AWA, artists, writers.
Oh, that may be it. Yes, and then Lisa is over at.
That's right. Lisa Hawkins is Valiant these days.
Over at Valiant. So it's like, wow, I know just about every editor in chief. I should be making phone calls and get new work.
Well, yeah.
That doesn't make sense. I'm 53 and look 20 years younger than you, Jared. It's the werewolf blood you've got. That's what it is. Being a werewolf keeps you young.
Yeah. And working in the comic industry will age you.
Mm-hmm. Also, that banana salad can't be good for you.
Banana salad is great. Everybody loves it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're older than Kid Rock, and Kid Rock looks older than you, yet you were confused for Kid Rock. Mistaken for Kid Rock.
Hey, Kid Rock. Here's something I got in the mail a couple weeks ago. Die with your mask on. This is one of Loading the Cannon. Colin Blanchett. I don't think he's done YouTube videos in a while. But he's been putting out these magazines, these comic book magazines, Canon. I think I have the first 3. He sent me this one. He sent me this one gratis because with a note in it that says, Jared, we'd love for you to participate in this if you have any interest. Thanks, Colin. And it's for the 3rd issue of Die with Your Mask On. We're going to put together a list of the top 100 superhero comics of all time. So I was like, that's a pretty ambitious number, 100.
Yes. First, it's going to take a year to read all the comics first, so that you can select the top 100.
What I did, all I've done so far on it is I went through my database and I just picked out from my database the best, what I thought were superhero comics. I don't think I got anywhere near 100. I must have got 50 or so. I'll have to pare it down later before I was like 100. I don't, and it's kind of like, stories, or it's not, it's however you want to sort of, he's He's got a few pages of rules here, but it really comes down to pick whatever you want.
Yeah.
Define superhero comics the way you want it. So it's like, I would I put down, Frank Miller's Daredevil, but what does that really mean? What issues do I mean? Do I mean the whole thing from top to front? The issues so I'll have to figure that out later.
And
Canon
the comics of
can.
all time?
Yeah. Let's see. Where Up by Lunchtime. It's comics by Charles Byrne in the Post yesterday. I haven't looked at it yet. Still reading Weird Science reprints, which I love. Yeah, I'm going to definitely pick that one up, but I haven't got it yet. Or hold on. Is that the one? Or is that the one that's all comic book covers? That one I got because Charles Burns just put out 2 new books in the last, 6 months. One was a collection, sort of like My Dreams of Things, of covers to comics that don't exist. And the other is a new actual comic. The new actual comic I haven't got yet. But the one that's all covers I got, which is pretty good. It's up my alley. Yeah, but I'm going to have to see which, what do I mean by best 100 comics?
With since one of the things that I have is a certain concern with the aesthetics of American comics, I think it would be interesting to do something over there over the superhero look of the first batch of independent comics to appear in the direct market. Stuff like Dreadstar, where Jim Starlin had to come up with a superhero costume to make it more sellable. Or
let's see, who were the first?
Nexus.
Yeah, Nexus, the Badger, Captain Victory, Star Slayer. Who else was I buying back? John Sable, freelance. I guess he'd be a superhero.
Yeah, the thing is, he's not a superhero, but they do use the aesthetics. The thing is designed to look like a facial mask.
He's got a mask on,
and he has the whole secret identity concept turned upside down.
Grendel, though he's a super villain, but he's one of the early ones.
You have the aesthetics,
right? Okay, so comics is just the covers book. His take on art. Yeah, I liked it a lot. That's the one I have. I don't have the one that's new. That's actual comics. It was a really weird week for me at the comic shop because I got 9 comics, which is a pretty big number for me. But the only one that could even be counted as a regular is issue number 2 of Godzilla Heist. Every other one was a first issue or one of the Chris Giarrusso covers. So it's like, this is this of course just got on my pull list because it's only issue number 2. And I still somehow managed to get 9 comics with none of my, what I'd call regulars in there. Well, there was a fun issue number 2. Did you get issue number 1 of this, Wilson?
I did order it from the shop, so it should be there when I finally get into the shop itself. And I think I put it on my list. So actually, the first 2 issues should be there.
Okay, yeah. Well, these guys are just maniacs, Just the whole idea of using Godzilla destroying a city to cover your heist is insane.
It is, but there's a genius to it too. I do like heist movies.
Yeah, me too.
I get a kick out of them. The crazier, the better. So for me, I think that it works.
Yeah, like it works for me too. That's why I'm buying it, of course. Yeah. But like Thief of Thieves is the best heist comic But this one's a lot. But I'm just like, how many people are dying as Godzilla is stomping the city so they can pull off a heist? It's just like, that's just kind of crazy.
Isn't that technically murder while committing a robbery?
Yeah,
They're going to
mass
the electric
murder.
chair.
It's not just murder; it's mass murder while committing a felony.
Yeah, do they control Godzilla, or they
No,
just happen to, so okay, so they have no control of Godzilla. So
the whole concept, which is giving away nothing, is the first guy who pulls a heist figures out a way to lure Godzilla in. I don't know,
okay,
uses sound or tachyons or whatever pseudoscientific explanation they have.
right.
I don't remember
Okay,
what it was.
then yes, that he can be charged with,
Right, right,
because he created the situation.
right. So he
He
can
was
go
just
to a city,
following he was just following a monster's rampage
and,
and
right,
happens to commit the crime.
and then he uses like drones to try to irritate Godzilla to get him to destroy the building he wants destroyed so he can get in it.
Okay,
Kind of
yeah.
thing.
So then
And he almost dies a couple times too, because it's not a precise plan.
no, it isn't. It's like aiming a hurricane and
Yes.
then saying, "All right, we got somewhat of a
Matter of fact,
control."
I think in the first issue when he's first doing it, he's like, "Oh my God, I'm alive! Great!" Because he almost got killed by Godzilla. Listen, I have no idea how many issues it's going. I gotta. There's a next. I gotta figure, 4, 5.
Yeah, I don't think it would go past 6 issues or something
No,
like
I
that.
don't even know. A lot of them don't even go 6 these days. And here's another one: Godzilla, Here There Be Aliens. We were discussing this on the comments in my video this week. How IDW is just doing a good job with all sorts of creative Godzilla comics.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to watch going from how very strict Godzilla comics were when they
Yeah,
started. So,
right.
Marvel and the better looking one, of course, is the Dark Horse version of Godzilla. But they were limited on what monsters they can use and the licensing issues and
Mhm.
stuff like that, where it's great that they eventually got to let him cut loose and then use
Yeah.
the other monsters, and it's what people wanted. They always wanted the other monsters, and then they go
Godzilla, Skater, even without the other monsters, like they came up with a Godzilla Skater comic. It's just like,
right.
all right, not one I bought, but what the heck? A Godzilla Skater comic. Let's go for it. Yeah, I like the whole idea. I should check. I ended up not ordering any of these, but I might check them out. The Godzilla Across America, because that's Godzilla versus America, where
Right, because
each
that
issue is just trampling on a different city.
yeah, and it's like it's a genius idea in the sense of it'll get every one of those states to want to buy it,
Yeah.
and but as a fan, it's like, oof, that's at least 50 comic books,
Yeah.
you know?
More than that, there's more than one city in a state.
Yeah,
That
yeah, I didn't even think about
was
that. I'm hoping they're just leaving it to one major city per state.
that
If they're
was
doing every major city, that'd be
that was
something.
actually a bit in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The one character, Charlie, who can be, well, they all can be a little dumb at times. Was one day saying, Can you, he's like, did you guys know that Pittsburgh is in Pennsylvania? And they're like, yes, we knew that. He's like, well, how can that be? Philadelphia's in Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh's in how can a
Yeah.
state have 2 cities? And they're like, every state has more than 2 cities. No, you're not understanding what I'm saying. Pittsburgh is in Pennsylvania.
Well, except maybe Rhode Island. Does Rhode Island have 2 cities? Answers on a postcard.
I have
There's
no idea.
Providence and there's probably some others. I don't know.
Is Nantucket part of the state of Rhode Island, or is it Massachusetts?
I think it's Massachusetts. Evening 62 Lefty Blues.
Hello.
Who has been reading some books by Bluch, was not familiar with him. I'm not familiar with him. I think I heard that name recently, but I don't know.
Is reacting to Werewolf's comment about wanting to get Lucky Luke.
Okay.
Okay, so it's been a while since original creator Morris has died, and the publisher with the rights to Lucky Luke has been doing some off-brand comics. So the character does not look like the typical drawings of Lucky Luke. And the ones made by Bluch have been selling well. So I guess, but I'm really not a fan of Lucky Luke. I've read about half a dozen Lucky Luke comics in my life. I just don't get into the stories for some reason.
It must suck having your LCS closed down.
Mm-hmm.
I would hate if mine did, because I've been going there since the 80s. Hello, Crack. I still watch your shows on replay. Wish I could get those indies in Oz. I actually did order. Let's see. What issues did Goscinny do?
Quite a few. Let me check the list.
But I actually ordered the Godzilla versus Spider-Man because Nick Bradshaw is drawing it. So I was like, you know what? I want to see Nick Bradshaw draw Godzilla versus Spider-Man. So I ordered that. I did not order because it looks like now they must be doing all those Batman comics at 11 by 17. Because last week they had the pre-order for the issue 2 of the Hush storyline at 11 by 17, and I was like, nah, I'll just stick with the one novelty 11 by 17 comic. I don't need the whole Hush series at 11 by 17.
Yeah, that seems to be a bit much for me.
Yeah. 62 Lefty Blues. I read Mitchum and So Long Silver Screen by Bluch. I have Peplum left to read. Peplum, is that a word?
All right. So Goscinny seems to have written about 37 Lucky Luke stories, I think. And since that thing is right now on album number 72.
Wow.
You wrote about half of them, yeah. So everything from albums 9 to 37 except one are written by Goscinny, who is better known as the creator of the co-creator of Asterix. Also of Bob Rouge, I think. He did a couple of other series with Uderzo, and also created the Little Nicholas series of children's books, which have been adapted into movies.
Godzilla! Oh no! There goes Tokyo.
It's kind of funny because I love Asterix, but I don't get nowhere near the same enjoyment of his writing on Lucky Luke. And another weird thing, I used to love the cartoon, but I start reading the books and what am I reading here?
Have you ever read any Godzilla comics?
Nope.
Not a single one.
I've never even watched the Japanese movies. The only thing from Godzilla that I've watched was the Hanna-Barbera cartoon. With Godzuki.
Well, I haven't watched any Godzilla movies since my childhood anyway. I've like I said, I'm not a huge Godzilla fan, but they do some nice stuff with the comics.
I've of course watched them all.
Yep.
and I do have my favorites, and for me, I think it would probably be the Godzillas that were released in the 90s when they brought back Godzilla, and it had that resurgence.
The Japanese ones?
I was watching them in Japanese, but they were released in America.
Okay. But I mean, they weren't American made.
No, they weren't American made. These are the ones I'm talking about, were all the ones that were still made in Japan, that I would watch it first on VHS in Japanese, and then about a year later they would be released in the United States. And for a little while they were being released just about every year. And during that time, Trendmasters were doing the toys. So I did pick up the toys. Again, it's the 90s. I was making some good money at Marvel. So a lot of it was going to the Godzilla stuff for my personal Godzilla Foundation. And so enjoyed it. Then they made the American TriStar Godzilla. I enjoyed it as a monster movie, but it wasn't a Godzilla movie, I would say. And then it kind of went on hiatus for a while, and then the Millennium series came out, and I enjoyed those as well, and those were a lot of fun. But they were never heavy continuities to these things anyway.
Right.
But certain groups did have a little bit of crossover and stuff like that. So I think they each have some fun stuff. The stuff that was, the early stuff that we grew up as kids watching on, Thanksgiving, they would have a, Godzilla Thanksgiving Day marathon type of thing, would be the early 60s stuff where it was very, it was a goofy thing, but they were all pretty entertaining in their own right. So I've always enjoyed them.
I can remember the first time I saw, of course, through our friend Bunch, who's a huge Godzilla fan, the letterboxed version of Destroy All Monsters. It was really well done. Because, of course, all I'd ever seen was the pan and scan TV version.
Right, that was always a horrible copy.
Yeah, the difference between the letterboxed version of Destroy All Monsters and the pan and scan version is night and day.
Completely.
I mean, it was just like so much better. And I was like, wow, this is actually a good movie.
For a while, I don't remember if it was Classic Media. There was a company that was that was selling the Godzilla DVDs, and one side was the original letterbox Japanese released, and the other side was the American release. And as you were saying, complete night and day difference. And you sit down and watch a movie like Rodan, it is a bit scary in the movie as you're watching it, and you're following a guy who had a trauma of seeing the giant monsters running around. It scared him so much that he went mute for a little while. And the thing that broke him out of it was watching an egg crack, because he watched Rodan come out of an egg. So it was fascinating to just be watching it and really getting into it. Sure, it's in Japanese, and sure, you got to read the subtitles, but it's such a superior movie compared to the American one, which they dub it with cartoony like voices. They edit down the story, move things around, and the pan and scan, it gives you like at least 2 or 3 levels away from what you were really watching. Where the Japanese version, it was such a great quality, you almost felt like you were watching a play because of how crisp and clear it was.
I just realized there's probably young people out there who don't even know what pan and scan is anymore.
Probably not.
For those of you who don't know, that's how they used to format movies for television. Since they didn't want letterboxes, when they shrink the picture to fit the size of the TV, there's a black bar up top and a black bar down bottom. Usually in the 80s and before, TV people did not want those black bars. They wanted to fill up the whole screen. So if you had a wide, all movies are wider than TV. So they'd pan and scan, because you'd have to focus on one part of the movie and then scan across it to show the other part of the film. So like a movie where there was one person on this side of the screen and one person on this side of the screen, and they're talking to each other. All of a sudden you'd focus in on this guy, and then it would scan across the movie. And so, a static shot became a moving shot, and it just messed up all the composition of movies. Mm-hmm. Which is why when I saw the pan and scan of Destroy All Monsters, it was, just another TV. When I saw the letterbox version, they really composed that movie. They had especially when they filled the whole screen with monsters.
Yes, you have
Mhm.
Mount Fuji in the back, and you
Yeah.
have every Toho monster to date on the screen, and it was basically what that hadn't been seen again since pretty much Endgame.
Yeah.
To have that many creatures that had their own movies, by the way, and
Mhm.
eventually they all show up. The only places where you saw that in cinema was Destroy All Monsters first, then Abbott and Costello meets the Universal Monsters,
Ah,
and then we go decades without one until Godzilla Final Wars did it again, and then we get it in Endgame. But before that, Godzilla did it first.
Yeah.
ah,
We didn't have Scan and Pen. Let me just answer that. So Umpapa predates Asterix. It was still published by Dupuis. Since when Asterix became a lot more profitable, Goscinny and Uderzo focused on that and stopped making new Umpapa stories. So the Umpapa is a hapless British soldier on British North America before American independence, and he's friends with a Native American who has to protect him from actual dangers.
huh.
And that
And you
that
were
was from
saying
the.
about Pan and Scan?
So we didn't have pen and scan here. We always had the black bars.
Ah,
That thing was actually practical because if the because of subtitles, and if there was only one line of text, it would fit on the lower black bar.
right.
Of course, if it had the second line, then the second line would be on top of the action. But on regular 4:3 TV, would the subtitles just be written on top of the film.
See, where have I I've been making my way through the Outer Limits. Boy, are there some boring episodes. Twilight Zone is much better. I've only seen a little Outer Limits. I haven't seen. When they would play like the classic episodes. I've seen them, so I haven't seen all the boring ones. And it was a long time since I saw the good ones. And Tit Goblin says I based a whole semester of film history on the Godzilla films, Japan versus U.S. And Crown Crack says no young men in this ancient chat room. And it also says, sounds like I gotta watch Rodan again, Wilson.
Definitely recommended.
Scan and Pan ruined many a Western shootout on regular TV. Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
it
Yeah,
did.
there's a ton of movies that you got to go back and see in Letterbox because it becomes a different movie altogether.
Oh, what did I just heard something. There's a famous that I didn't know. And once again, we were talking about It's Always Sunny earlier. On Always Sunny, I think they had Danny DeVito, repeat a line I had never heard. It's of course we all know the famous line from Die Hard, "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker." But unlike the TV version, what did he say? "Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Jeremy" or something? It's like something I can't. I'm gonna have to look it up what it is now. But he said something completely different because you can't curse on TV, and it was just like
It wasn't Mother Lover.
no. I'm gonna have to look it up what it is now. But and because I remember them saying it on like It's Always Sunny, and I didn't know it was a reference to the Die Hard line. And he may have said it in the second movie. It was when I looked it up and saw a clip on it. Mr. Falcon, that's it. Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon. There we go.
What does that have to do with anything?
Nothing. So
here we
funny.
don't have that problem. We hear all of the English language curse words, but then the translation in the subtitles goes something like "Yippee-ki-yay, you darned rascal," something like that.
You darn
Yippee-ki-yay,
rascal.
Mr. Falcon.
Amazing.
Werewolf says, I actually watched some American sports the other day. That Aussie guy scoring from halfway. LOL. No heads. That sounds like soccer. 62 says the new thing is to redo movies in black and white like Logan, The Mist, Godzilla -1 minus color, Mad Max Fury. Yeah, I've seen that a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes it works quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't blame them. It's just another bite at the apple, try to get some more money. So, for some movies it
Basketball.
works.
That's what he was talking. Half court.
But speaking of black and white, I did get a comic book
What did you
uh,
get?
that we were talking about the other day, The Bizarre Adventures
Oh, look at that.
with the X-Men on it. So the
Did
day
you?
we were talking about it, I went looking it up on eBay because I mentioned the first time I ever saw it was in a comic book shop, and it was double digits.
Uh-huh.
And this was published at least a year before I was collecting comics. So by the time I got to reading X-Men, it was already a few years after this was published. So when I saw it in the comic book shop, not knowing anything about Bizarre Adventures, it was just way too much money for me
Right.
at that time period. And every time I saw it, it just get into a higher price, a higher price. So I knew nothing of it. But when we were talking about Bizarre Adventures that day, it was I think maybe 2 Fridays back. I had gone online to look up to see some information about it while we were talking, and someone had it for $5 on eBay. So I was like, all right, let me make an offer. And I think I went down to like $4 to for hugs and puppies. Let's see. They accepted my offer for four, so I got it for $4. The shipping was $6, so I paid more for the shipping
Of
than the book
course.
itself, of course. So altogether, it cost me $10, and it took about a week to show up. It came in perfectly fine condition. They marked it as a 7.0.
Uh-huh.
Means nothing to me when it's a loose comic. It means nothing. And it's like, very little damage to it.
Hmm.
Something in the corner.
Right.
It doesn't even show up on camera. There's a ding on it, but that's it. Uh, but again, it was one of those things like I never had this book, and I still haven't read it, but it's like, oh, this is pretty cool because you got a Cockrum X-Men story in the back. So it's Cockrum doing Nightcrawler, so it's beautiful art in itself. And again, it was one of those things that we were just talking about, and it's like, there's a kind of nostalgia for a book I wanted but never got. And it's like, it's pretty neat.
Yeah. You know what? I just got off of eBay. I don't have them yet. Do you remember Vince Melcaric? He was probably before your time. He was a raider, one of Romita's raiders in the early 90s. And somewhere in the early 90s, he died suddenly of a brain aneurysm or something. And just recently, somebody I'm in a group of 80s indie comics on Facebook. Someone held up a Vince Melcaric tribute book from the time, which I had no idea existed. So of course I had to, and I think this had something to, he lived on, I don't remember if he was from or he lived on Staten Island at the time. But I happened to be looking, I looked for, it's about the same price as that one,
Right.
$5 with $6 shipping or whatever. But I happened to stumble on one that they were selling for about the same price. I think it was $12 altogether, which sold like 14 copies of it. So and they said that's right. It was originally $10 for 14 copies plus $4 shipping. They sent me a deal for $8. I was like, you know what? I may as well get this one. I'll give them out to people. But I was like, just, I knew him a little bit in the early 90s. I didn't know him a lot, but I was like, I never knew. And like, I think they said John Romita had a piece in there and a few other people. So I'll have to see what this Vince Melcaric tribute book looks like as I pass them out to
Right.
whoever wants one.
Yeah,
Let's
it's
see.
kind of
Snakes on a Plane had some memes with Samuel L. Jackson, mother loving snakes on his mother loving plane. Yeah.
That's where I must have got Mother Lover from.
Yeah.
Logan, black and white, worked well. So did The Mist, says Tit Goblin.
Yeah,
Gives
and
the
in
moonlight.
the line before he says "Yippee ki and Hans is going on. This time, this time, John Wayne does not hide into the sunset with Grace Kelly. It was Gary
Right.
Cooper, you asshole. What does it say on the subtitles? It was Gary Cooper, you cretin.
Cretin. You cretin.
Werewolf. I only watched Laurel and Hardy in black and white. Occasionally Woody Allen. I don't mean to be facetious or didactic in any way. Broadway Danny Rose. That might be my favorite of the Woody Allen oeuvre.
Yeah. I once heard a Woody Allen quote. He was auditioning some girl for one of his movies, and the girl said she had never seen a Woody Allen movie, and she had never heard of the Marx Brothers. And Woody Allen says, "I don't care if she says she doesn't watch my movies. Nobody watches my movies, but I'm surprised she's never heard of the Marx Brothers."
Let's see. What
In the 70s, you were supposed to have heard of the Marx Brothers. I mean,
Yeah,
nowadays I get it that nobody's heard of them.
right? Trying to
TV
think
was
of
so different, you know. When you only had 3 channels, you watched what was ever on.
trying to think of what were the comics I gave away to my students this week. On Monday, I gave away collected editions. What did I give away? Joe Cupert's Tour. You remember that? That was that must have come out in like the late 90s. It was a hardcover collection of Joe Cupert's Tour, which I think he originally did in like the 50s and then may have finished it up in the 90s. But I was never going to look at it again, so I brought that in. I gave him away, once again, the hardcover collection of John Cassidy and the X-Men. Oh, Joss Whedon. Did you ever read that?
Oh, yeah.
It was actually pretty good. At one time, I had both volumes of it, but I think I sold volume 2 because that was the one no one had, so people were willing to pay for it. But nobody wanted volume 1. This is like 10 years ago. So I gave away volume 1 to a student. I gave away, I think I only got it like last year or the year before. There was like a slow week at the comic shop, and I bought this reprint of a bunch of Golden Age pirate stories. I forget the company. There's a company who, they just scan in old public domain stories and print them on demand, I think, too.
Oh, Guandanaland.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you, but it was nice. I mean, it was only like $12 or something when it first came out, and I enjoyed it. But I was like, you know what? Am I ever going to look at this again? I don't think so. Luckily, one of my students loves pirates, so he took that one. And then the last thing I gave away was, do you remember when Jeff Smith, the guy who did Bone, did a Shazam story for DC?
Yeah, I have that too.
Yes, I do remember when he did that.
It was good. It was solid. I had the hardcover edition, which I got for cost because at that exact time, DC was supposedly doing a reprint of what's that famous Captain Marvel story from the 40s that Eric Larson says isn't really very good? Oh, what was the name of it? There's a famous Captain Marvel story from the 50s, which was one of the original comics that took up a bunch of it. Oh, versus the Monster Society of Evil, the Something Society of Evil.
It sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't think I ever read the story.
I never read it.
There was a group, I think, of all the Captain Marvel villains.
Right.
Led by the mind worm. I forget the name of that creature.
Dr. Savannah?
Dr. Savannah was the bald guy.
Oh, okay.
And then the worm
Mr. Mind?
It might have been Mr. Mind. Like, I think got all the villains together for the first time, had like a team up of villains.
Right.
I think that's what the society one was called.
But I think it was there was too much racism in it for DC to reprint. But I think the new Jeff Smith one had a similar name. So my LCS ended up ordering that one for me. And I was like, this isn't the one I was ordering. They're like, we'll give it to you for cost.
Yeah.
So that was like 10 years ago now, at least. So I gave that one away this week, too. They also gave away 4 out of the 5 issues of Frank Miller's 300. For some reason, I never got issue 2.
Might have been sold out.
I don't know. I don't think it was on my. It was one of those where I think I picked it up because there was plenty of copies to be found.
Right.
I picked it up, the first issue, and didn't put it on my pull list, and probably didn't even notice till a 3rd issue came out. And it was a slow week, so I'll pick up another issue of this, and I ended up picking up like 1, 3, 4, and 5. Then eventually I got the collected edition that's twice as wide as regular, and it's much better in that edition. But I was like, you know what? I may as well pass on these 4 issues. Someone can get something out of them. And I passed on, what was the name of it? Liam Sharp did an indie series that I bought, I think last year, the year before, called Starseed. And it was okay. Nothing spectacular. So, I think it was 6 issues. I bought all 6 issues, so obviously I enjoyed it. But I'm like, you know what? I'm probably never going to read this again. Passed those on, too.
Yeah, this is the Jeff Smith one.
There's the Jeff Smith one. Okay. Yeah, the hardcover was oversized. Yeah, the Monster Society of Evil. I think, like I said, the same name as that one from the 40s.
Yeah, funny thing, before this, you remember that thing by Evan Dorkin? I think it was Evan Dorkin in World's Funnest, which is a one-shot that's a fight between Mxyzptlk and Batmite.
Okay,
and they end up destroying the multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
So they go through all of the DC universes and pop up in the Fawcett universe.
Uh-huh.
And that's when Mxyzptlk starts going ape because they all have ridiculous names and ridiculous motivations, and he just has to destroy that universe because it sucks.
The dust jacket on the hardcover opens up into a poster on Shazam, 62 Lefty Blues. I didn't even notice that. I'll have to point that out to the person I gave it to.
And because Mxyzptlk and Batmite, they run into a recruitment drive for the Monster Society of Evil. And you see all of the Captain Marvel supervillains going into the building, and then Mr. Mind shows up. Hey, what's the holdup? Why aren't you taking over the planet like I said? The imp thing showed up in the universe. I am Mr. Mind, the greatest villain in the universe, and I'm Mxyzptlk. Wait, what's your name, Mr. Banjo? And that guy's Uncle Marvel? No, fuck this! I'm going to destroy everything.
Mr. Banjo. I have to dig through my closet to get more stuff to give away. I still have all of Jerry's comics out in the garage too. I got to take me years to give those away. Lots and lots of stuff. Let's see. Here's a really good comic I got this week. Once again, Godzilla is the only one that's not a #1 or a Chris Giarrusso cover. This is Solomon Kane #1 by Titan Comics, and is easily the best Solomon Kane comic I've read. Have you heard of the artist Patrick Zircher?
Of course.
Yes.
I really know him from, I think I used to follow him on Twitter, and now I follow him on Blue Sky. But I really don't know. I really don't know what he's done, but he's really good. And matter of fact, I just recently saw some of his credits, and I went, "Oh, he did that stuff," but it was like mainstream stuff that I hadn't bought. But This is terrific. Let me show you some of the art from it.
Yeah, I have his Thunderbolts. I don't think I've read his Superman. Yeah.
The
Nice.
storytelling is excellent. The backgrounds are excellent too. He does a lot of these cityscape, towns that he draws and stuff, and it's just really, really well done. There he is going through some pass in North Africa. But I gotta say, I enjoyed this thoroughly. It's a good story. Let me see. Is it? Of course, Titan Books annoys me by putting their corporate masthead on the splash page. That's why I stopped buying Conan. The Puritan's Path. They give you a little recap in the beginning of what he's doing, but really, really good. It's funny. Usually, what happens is I buy a first issue, and then final order cutoff for the second issue is that next week, that next Monday. So you buy the first issue on Wednesday, and you have until that Monday to put it on your pull list or order the second issue. For some reason, the final order cutoff for the second issue of this was last Monday. But I was like, you know what? I'll order the second issue. So this is definitely going on my pull list. It was really good. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I can't say that I've ever liked a Solomon Kane story before, but this one, he did a nice job with it.
I have never liked Solomon Kane. It never did anything for me. Now, also, I never read the novels, so I have no idea what those are like. Or,
I don't either.
Or I never
Repetitive.
finished one. So it is very well possible I could have started one and never finished one, because I do know some stories. And I don't know if I know that story from reading a novel or attempting to watch that movie that came out at some point.
They used to show up in Marvel Comics, Solomon Kane.
No,
like
so I was
Savage
aware.
Sword and stuff.
I was aware of him,
Yeah.
and every time he would pop up on the page, it's like nothing. His Puritan costume did nothing for me. The buckle is like, it's supposed to be cool, but it didn't do anything for me at all.
He's kind of more human in this than he is in other stuff I've read about him, where he's kind of extreme. Let's see. Werewolf by London. The best hair artist is Mike Deodato Jr. Just a random thought. Modern hair artist. Yeah. You said Mike Deodato Jr. and I immediately pictured hair.
Yeah.
Lots of flowing hair.
The thing about Solomon Kane, only about 2 or 3 stories are set in Europe.
Right.
The rest are there's like a dozen stories that are set in Africa, and the story is always the same.
Mm-hmm.
Solomon Kane walks into village, monster kills village, Solomon Kane kills monster. That's it.
Well, that isn't quite this story, but I'm sure it's where it's headed. But Patrick Zurcher does such a nice job with the art and storytelling, and the writing was good too, that I really liked it. So I don't really like the design on that cover, though. I don't know what it's reminding me of. I don't like the logo. I don't like the 2 white stripes. I don't like the UPC up top. I don't know what it is about the design of this cover that I don't like, but it's not doing it for me. Cover C, Patrick. There's also, of course, other covers, as usual with Titan Comics and lots of comics. There's 13 covers at least. Some of them are like exclusives for stuff, but definitely recommend Solomon Kane for anybody out there who wants a good read. A good read. Yeah, I always used to wince when I saw a Solomon Kane story coming up in Savage Sword or something. He did a lot of preaching.
Yeah.
Because what it was too in Savage Sword, they kind of had to establish his character as, Puritan, radical Puritan. So every issue you got, you got reminded of his character. And you're like, oh, here we go with the Puritan stuff again.
Well, he's very one note. The thing is, he's actually not very Puritan at all, and he wouldn't admit it, but as he goes into berserker rages while fighting the monsters.
Yeah. And he killed the wrong guy in this one, and then had to make up for it. So
yeah.
And he actually was. Let me see if I can find the spot where he was like, "Huh? I'm a Puritan and I'm killing people." Oh, he was. He was a private. He was on a privateer ship. Where is it? Sea Dogs. Sea Dogs, Reavers, a pack of mongrels, and I'm one of them. A privateer in the service of Queen Elizabeth. With Her Majesty's coffers low, our merchant lords refit traders as ships of war, though no war exists, not officially. The deck is treacherous with the sea spray and the blood of many marinheros, brave men, under their boy king, but their boy king is under the influence of the Grand Inquisitor. No friend to Protestant England. The Portuguese dominate trade spice from the East Indies. So England struggles, alliances falter, I'm Devonshire born. Yet, is this not piracy? Murder by permission, by letter of marque? I am at a loss between right and wrong. So he's not exactly happy with his situation being a privateer and killing honorable men who are just making their trade route stuff. So that was a little bit of interest in that story too.
At that period in time, he should not be attacking Portuguese ships, because by that time,
give us a year,
Portugal would have recovered their crown from the crown from Spain.
Yeah, I don't know, the Barbary coast. We spied the Gaviota, a Portuguese caravel. I guess a caravel is a kind of ship.
A caravel is caravel is a normal ship, is a normal trading ship for ocean crossing during the Renaissance.
Yeah, but good comic. Liked it. Good stuff. What? Tit Goblin says, we can't get him, sir. Well, get me Chakin, the immortal, the non-Union American equivalent. An old Simpsons reference. I was just making an old Simpsons reference that nobody gets anymore. Let's see. Werewolf asks, anyone a fan of Eric Larson, the writer, not the Savage Dragon guy? H.H. Holmes' book he did was amazing. I'm halfway through Dead Wake about the Lusitania. Fascinating. No, I've not read any of Eric Larson's Not the Savage Dragon guy.
I haven't either. I don't think I have.
I'll have to check him out. Though I do have, got to read those again. Rick Geary's H.H. Holmes book and his Treasury of Victorian Murders and such. Have you read much Rick Geary stuff, either of you?
Nope.
He's one of my absolute favorites. And he did this whole, 15-volume set of true crime stuff that's really good.
I don't think I've read any of his stuff.
Good stuff. Want to see one of Chris Gerusso's covers?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Here we go. And they're not being that like each cover is going with like whatever comic it like this is the Avengers, so it gets Iron Man or West Coast Avengers. So it's Iron Man features in this one. So it's not like they're coming out in numerical order, so you can't line them up yet. Because each one, goes into the next side where you can line them all up sideways. But this West Coast Avengers book, like I said, number 6, very strange. I think I've gotten lucky with the Chris Gerusso cover books that I got in like the last 2 or 3 months. I don't think I got as lucky with this batch. Not that they're terrible, but I find them weird.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder. I don't know what I think who's the writer on this? I think it was Al Vey. Let me see if I can. Oh, there we go. Nope, this is Jerry Duggan. The artist is Tom Lima. Colorist is Arthur Hesley. Joe Caramanga is the letterers.
Yeah. So what Jerry Duggan does is just when you think that the story is going to reach new heights as a serious story, he decides to throw in a ridiculous joke that completely ruins the mood. And
Jokes in here. This I would think is a serious story, but it's a weird serious story.
Yeah, but it's not. There are stupid moments in there that are out of character.
Did you actually read this issue?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the plot is that the West Coast Avengers, who Tony Stark is in charge of, has decided to make Ultron one of the members of the West Coast Avengers. Supposedly he's reformed. He's got coding that makes him not evil anymore. Lottie, 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 lottie. And Tony Stark's like, we're giving him a second chance. And he tells the Wasp, Janet Van Dyne, this. So she shows up with the Avengers going, what, are you crazy? You can't. Ultron's been tricking us his entire career. You can't make Ultron a member of the Avengers. So then they fight a little. And the whole issue is a discussion between the Avengers and the West Coast. Sometimes a fight, sometimes a discussion of whether they should trust Ultron to be an Avenger or not. And it was just a little strange.
The way you
Maybe he's
describe
tricking them. Maybe he's not.
The way you describe it makes me both want to read it and not want to read it at all. Because it's like there's something interesting about, the Avengers have always kind of reformed many of their villains. Captain America started that with Quicksilver and Wanda. So it's like, okay, you could see, but it's a robot that was built to be evil from day one. Not built to be evil, but has been evil since day one.
Both had some pretty good arguments. I mean, it was. I gotta say, it wasn't uninteresting. It was just weird.
Yeah. Here's the thing: if we still had somebody over there who cared about continuity, they would be aware of Ultron Mark 12, who was the only Ultron who turned out good, and they could do a story with Mark 12. But this is not it. there are other Ultrons running around, and one of them founded a church that's turning the churchgoers into cyborgs.
That's what one of the things he said. He was like, "Hey, there's lots of us Ultrons now. I could be the good one."
I'm getting Brainiac 5 vibes here.
Yeah. The thing
Every
is, Tony,
Brainiac was evil except for that one.
Tony is acting like a clueless idiot. Rhodey is acting like Tony is not a coolest idiot and Rhodey is still in 1989 era Iron Man?
Well, Tony's acting like I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm doing it,
Spider-Woman,
you know?
Spider-Woman is acting like this is just a gig and I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Firestar is drunk most of the time.
Who's the new Wonder Man?
Yeah, he's a blue is an electrical villain called
Okay.
Blue Bolt or something. He's there to be some sort of comic relief slash potential infiltrate. The motivations are unclear. He seems to right now he seems to want to get inside Firestar's pants.
Mm-hmm.
But and he decided, well, since I need a superhero identity, I'm going to call myself Wonder Man. And Wonder Man, who had not shown up in the story until the previous issue, what I have to go and teach that guy a lesson.
Huh.
Okay.
Huh. Werewolf says the best true crime writer is Jeff Gwynne. He has kept me up until 1 a.m. His Bonnie and Clyde and Jonestown books are superb. I couldn't put them down. 2-day reads. Well, Rick Geary, his true crime books are graphic novels, so you're not going to have a 2-day read on those. And I have never read true crime books, but I've watched. I watch a few true crime podcasts. Oh, what's the one I watch? Stephanie Harlow and Derek Levasseur. I can't remember what it's called, but I watch their true crime podcasts all the time. They go deep into stuff. Sometimes they have like 6-part, 12-hour long podcasts on some particular case. But Rick Geary's his true crime graphic novels are among my favorites. Definitely going to reread those. No doubt. Mm-hmm. And here's one I picked up off the shelf. I know it's funny. Another number one. Being that number 2 was none of my regulars were out. And I can remember, as I've said before, I get the email, final order cutoff email. I look through it. Sometimes if a book interests me, I'll look it up and find a preview of it online and, see what the art looks like or whatever, and I'll order it or not. And this is one I distinctly remember I didn't pre-order it for whatever reason. Because I had 8 comics already. I had all those. But this cover really caught my. If you remember, I think it was last week I showed another Oni Press book that had this cover on the back. And I was like, "Ooh, I really like that cover. I wonder if I pre-ordered it." But I didn't. But I don't know. I just like the imagery of that cover, Plague House, the sort of half-face house sitting on his head. And the interior art's okay. Probably that's why I didn't order it. There's a nice page. Because the interior art didn't really grab me when I looked at the preview of it. But it's a story about people who, they're Ghostbusters. They go and look for haunted houses, and most houses aren't haunted, as they say. So when they actually find a haunted house, it's like, whoa, this is crazy what's going on here. So it's a haunted house story, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. So I'm glad that cover caught my eye, and I think the next issue cover is sort of similar. An upside down kid with a house. So I think I'll probably stick with this one because I enjoyed that first issue. Plague House. Oh, who's the editor in chief here? No one we know, but we know Carl Bollers is here now, right? At Oni Press. Bess Polares is the editor. I don't know who the editor in chief would be. Sierra Hahn. Nope. We don't know the editor-in-chief of this, but we do know one of the editors.
Yeah, but I mentioned it before. People don't realize how tiny the comic industry is.
Yeah. Let's see. Werewolf says, "Do any of you guys bid on my comic shop auctions? Prime auction is on at the moment. Some Marv Wolfman fanzine from when he was a kid, 150 print run. I've never bid on a my comic shop auction.
Yeah, see if you can find a key.
Nah.
First
Yeah,
appearance of Nova.
I have not. Usually, I don't really do the auctions all that much. Occasionally, an eBay one. Um, but I tend to look for stuff that I don't think really people are going for anyway. So, um, when I'm looking for stuff, is more of like either a whim or it's like, oh, I think it would be kind of cool to collect this. Like the thing that I've been toying around with lately is the possibility of getting like former bullpenners books.
Mm-hmm.
But the one I want to start with is the Big Apple one that Flo did.
Yep.
Because I've heard about that one, and it's like, oh, I've always wanted to try that one.
Big Apple Comics. I've got that somewhere.
And it's like, because I've heard about it, but I've never seen it. Don't know what's in it at all. I think it's an anthology. And it's like,
Yes.
all right, that'll be kind of cool to get that because, again, since most of the bullpenners have printed something at some point or another, I thought that would be a cool kind of collection to get.
Mm-hmm. You know what you know what I do on eBay sometimes? Find some book I'd really like that's expensive, that the auction is early, and I bid on it. If you bid early, you never win. So, which is okay, because I don't want to pay all that money for that book. But you get the thrill of bidding. And you're like, I'm outbid. Oh, well.
Yeah, there have been times where I bid on something and go, maybe I hope I don't win that because you can get caught up in it. And it's like, oh, I don't think I really want to spend that much into it.
You can bid a lot. You can bid $120 on a $500 book. You'll never win it.
That's true.
And you'll go, but you'll be in the lead for like 4 days. You'll go, I'm still no one's outbid me. Oh, still no one's out. Oh, I'm still in the lead. Oh, I might get this as a bargain. And then inevitably you get outbid and it goes for $420. And you go, oh well.
Yeah. But at the same time, what I dislike is losing the item for like 50 cents or $1 or something like that.
Well,
when I lose it for like $100, fine. I was never going to go that high, but there have been times where it's like, oh, I would have went 50 cents more.
But you never really know because
True.
that guy could have had $100 more on the bid. It just went over your. Matter of fact, sometimes, like matter of fact, the reason I have 2 copies of the Mr. X Volume 2 hardcover is because one was the auction was the winning price was like $2. And I'm like, I can't let this guy get this for $2. So I bid like $4 on it. And then I won it. And it cost me $10 with shipping. I was like, oh, okay. And that's exactly how I got where is it? It's around it's over. That's exactly how I got this Arwen statue. Who was a cross-gen character. This was years after this statue in cross-gen came out. I remember I was rereading the issues of Sojourn. And I said to myself, and there's ads for this statue in the back. It's like 10 years later. And I went, I wonder if that statue is still available. I looked on eBay and it was still available. I think my bid was like $10, and the auction has just started. So I bid $10. And I went, I'll never win it because it's got 6 more days to go. Nobody wanted it. I ended up winning it with my initial like $10 bid. I think it was like closer to 20 with shipping, of course. But I was just like, how did I win that? I guess I'm getting it.
The other trap you could fall into, and I've only done this once or twice, like wanting a particular book, finding it, but it's only available in auction. And it's like, all right, I'll bid on this one. And then one time, I'll make an offer on this one. And I'll get at least one of them. And I've gotten to both.
Yep.
It's like, oh.
Werewolf says they have weird stuff like 1950s pinup calendar. I'm watching that. I won 4 1950s noir paperbacks for $20. I only bid for the cover art. There's so much stuff. I'm like, you know what? I would bid for the cover art, scan it in, and then pass it on somehow. Now, some of that stuff has really nice cover art. You can find some of it on the internet, but not all of it. Not always good copies. As Graphic Man tries to find, and we see last week he was showing us some of his dust jackets he made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were really nice.
Yeah, if you can find some good high-res scans, you can be okay. I brought in some of those little Lotta 121s to my comic shop just so they can give them out if they want. Yeah. He's like, wow, this looks really nice. I'm like, yeah. When you scan from the original negatives, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's really, really perfect. Let's see, another comic I got this week in issue number 1. But this one almost counts as a regular comic because it's I Was a Fashion School Serial Killer by Doug Wagner and Daniel Hilliard. Michelle Madison on colors and Ed Dukeshire on letters. And they're a creative team. I think this is the 3rd or 4th series I bought. They did one called Vinyl. They did one called Plastic. They did one called Plush. Matter of fact, they did 2 called Plastic. I never got the first one, but they put out a second one, like a prequel called Plastic something else. So this is actually the 4th series I bought from them. So I'll buy anything they do. So it's kind of like a regular thing. But it's 100% exactly what it says. I was a fashion school serial killer. And it starts out by this woman saying, let's be clear. I never set out to be a fashion school serial killer. But like her first week at fashion school, she wants to kill someone. I'm like, I'm not sure I believe that. I'm not sure she's a reliable narrator.
Well, she didn't want to go to fashion school. She wanted to be a killer. That's where it probably is the mistake in the wording.
Sometimes things just happen to go your way. But she's at she's in New York City at the New York Fashion and Design Institute.
I got accepted there.
Not the Fashion Institute of Technology. I don't think there's actually a New York Fashion and Design Institute.
Okay,
thinking of FIT?
No. FIT is the college, right?
Oh, yes.
So before there was when the 2 art schools that you can apply for back in the 80s was either art and design or fashion institute.
Okay, well, this is college, so I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because there was a high school of fashion and arts.
I didn't realize. Okay,
so there was those 2 schools. Or I think it was LaGuardia was famous for fame, but I wasn't going there for entertainment arts. So I took the test for both art and design and for fashion, but I got accepted to fashion, not art and design. But because I broke my leg, the junior high I was going to didn't alert us that I got accepted. And so at that time, what they did is they tell the school that you got accepted, and then you got to let the school know, yes, we accept your acceptance. And apparently they were saying that, we couldn't reach you guys. And it's like, yes, I did break my leg, but in that time in between, you couldn't call. And so I missed out going to that school. So I had to go to like a regular high school in the Bronx. It also happened to be the worst high school in the Bronx at that time. So I ended up taking the test again for art and design, and then I got in. So instead of going into art and design in 9th grade for high school, I ended up going in 10th grade. So I only spent 3 years in art and design. But it was like, but again, it was like one of those things like, you tell your counselor for junior high that I want to take these tests to get into these schools for art. Why am I being sent to a regular high school?
Yeah. But this is a
Justice, I
terrific
tell you.
this is a terrific first issue. Really kind of captured the flavor of fashion school, captured the flavor of wanting to be a serial killer too, I guess. Let me show you a little of the art. Storytelling was terrific. There a very kind of clean was Hilliard, very clean line artist.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
Which kind of, served the setting well. She immediately wants to kill one of her snobby classmates. But this is one that went on my pull list immediately. So I'll be getting probably a minute. I think these usually go 6 issues. Here is a Plush and that was his last. And usually they set up like Plush was a bunch of small town corrupt cops versus a bunch of plushies who may have been killers too. Vinyl.
Seeing a theme here.
Vinyl. This one I think was about there's an FBI agent caught between a club of serial killers and a killer cult. So it was like it was the killer cult against the serial killers. So it was like and then I think Plastic, the lead is a weird serial killer. So the stuff is always a little weird, but good stuff. Like they're Wagner and Hilliard are an automatic buy for me these days. Let's see. Werewolf says it would be $40 a book in Australia. I'm not kidding. So that's why he's getting those noir paperbacks from my comic shop auction. I don't blame him. Werewolf asks, when does Battle Beast come out? A modern comic I'm actually interested in. I think it's out in a few weeks because it may have been on final order cutoff last week. I'm not 100% sure, but it's coming out fairly soon. Battle Beast is a character from the Invincible universe, and he was one of the most powerful characters from the Invincible universe. So, and he's a lot of fun. So that one automatically went on my pull list too. I think Kirkman is even writing it. I forget who's drawing it. It may have been Ryan Otley or who's the other Invincible artist. I can't remember. Have either of you guys read Invincible?
A little bit.
No, I've only watched the cartoon.
You're watching the cartoon? Yeah, well, the cartoon, I'm told, follows it pretty closely. So
yeah, everything that I've seen from it, and I have looked through some of the books, they're picking up the artwork right out of the books.
Yeah.
The only difference is that you can see where there are animation shortcuts that are needed because you can't spend that much time on the animation. And it's bloody, but not as bloody as the comic book, which is funny because I practically did clutch my pearls watching the first episode going, wow, this is quite violent and bloody. And it's like, and then later on I see the comic book and it's like, this is nothing compared to the comic book, but so well done.
Yep. Werewolf. I love Invincible. Oliver was my favorite character. Yeah, Oliver was good. Then I have the hardcovers of Invincible. I was buying them in that, and somewhere near it. It's like in the beginning, I was reading them in issues that I found around Marvel. So it was around 2004. And then I decided to buy them in hardcover, so I was buying them like once a year into the hardcover volumes. Then, like a year or two before it ended, I said, I want to buy the comics monthly. So I started buying the comics monthly just to kind of enjoy it as a monthly comic. Let's look at another Chris Geruso cover. This is the Immortal Thor, number 22. Once again, they're not coming out in order. This is the tease, so it's got Thor on it, so I can't line them all up yet. Who's that? Surtur up there, and
Surtur is a big one.
Thing, and Thor, and Ultron, Tiger Shark, Texas Twister, the Supreme Intelligence, lots of people.
Yeah, Franklin Richards is there in his Tattletale identity. That's why he's there.
Is that a Power Pack guy or
Yeah, that's
Franklin?
that's Franklin.
Yes, that's when he was a member of the Power Pack.
Yeah, his code name was Tattletale.
Who's that Iceman looking guy? Is that it's supposed to be the Silver Surfer? Because why would he be walking?
Silver Surfer doesn't have ears.
Right.
And let's see.
That's not Ironclad from the UFOs.
No. Would be probably a T name.
Don't know who it is. And is that Cersei over the Thing's shoulder?
No, that's Umar.
Umar. Okay. And is this one of the Eternals up there?
Thena.
Okay. But like I said,
Texas Twister.
Yep, Texas Twister's in there. He's on the back.
Yep.
But once again, I did not get lucky with this issue of Thor. Who's doing this? Al Ewing, Jan Bolazova, Matt Hollingsworth colors, and BC's Joe Sabino letterer. But I don't even know how to describe this. Surtur spends the first, or not Surtur, this is some version of Loki. Utgard Loki.
Utgard Loki. So that would be is one of the ice giants.
Okay. Well, he spends the first 3 pages explaining to us what a coin is. And another thing, that the constant interruption by house ads, I don't know why they do that. And
that's the editor is supposed to know that. I really think that those editors don't know how to place ads inside a book.
Well, yeah, there was, again, that goes all the way back to Bill Jemas wanting to hire people that didn't read comics.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's not even read comics. That you're supposed to understand publishing.
But reading comics, you're supposed to understand that as well, because it has its own language, especially in the design. I don't think that many of those editors have that. You know, there was a time where you had editor school or assistant editor school there,
right,
where
Mark
if they didn't know it,
Grunwald
they would train people.
Mark Grunwald would train everybody, all the new assistant editors, and how comics are made and storytelling. But like, I can even understand it back in the day when you would put the ads for whatever, sea monkeys in the middle. I can understand the advertisers wanting it in the middle.
Right.
But these are all house ads. Put them in the back like every indie comic does. It just baffles me that they still put them in the middle of comics. And then it's after whatever that Loki is explains to us what a coin is, we get Thor and Scourge, who's the executioner, right?
Yes.
They're battling a bunch of mindless mud people. I don't know what they are in this weird magical city. They're just wandering around, and then they run into Hermod, who I think is Hermes, because he runs really fast. And I don't know what they're.
So Hermod is a Norse god. You will find that it does sound like Hermes, and it does run really fast because you have the Indo-European, the Proto-Indo-European connection, because
Right,
the gods' names comes from there. So the like the word Jupiter and the word Zeus come from the same root,
right.
just as the Latin word for God, those also comes from the same root, but they end up having different names. So you do have Herma. That's why you also have Apollos in a couple of mythologies.
Right. They all came from that original Indo-European source.
Yeah.
Then where is it? And they're just kind of fighting their way around this city they're trapped in for like no reason. Then where's there was one where they're like discussing what that Loki is, and it makes no sense. Where is it? It's one of them discussing like, is he a poem? Is he a okay. Magic. No, I can't find it. Oh well. But he's like, he is not. He doesn't cast spells. He is magic. What? Oh, I wish I could find it because it is so stupid. Oh, here we go. However, Utgard Loki is not a weaver of spells, but their embodiment. No trickster, but the concept of a trick. What use is a magical weapon against one who is magic itself? I fear that I am ill-equipped for this journey, my friend. So he's, I don't know. I don't know what any of that's supposed to mean. But then what was so weird, I thought the final page was an ad, so I didn't even pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Like, first we had, let me just show you. Oh, God. Here's our last 2 pages of art. Then we have page turn. We've got add page of art. We've got add page of art. We've got add page of art. Was that 3 in a row? And then finally we get this last page turn, and this is our last page. I thought this was an ad. This is the edge stuff. I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be cared. There's a minotaur there or something at the middle of their. I didn't even realize this was the last page. I thought this was the last page. Because I turned it and was like, oh, another 4 pages in a row of ads on the left-hand side. That's nuts. I don't know how anyone would read this regularly.
Who puts ads on the left-hand side? Everybody knows that ads go on the right-hand side.
That ruins the page turn. Once again, as Wilson said, they don't know.
They have no idea. But,
Yep.
you know, that goes to show you, if that's acceptable to be printed, you should be working on your own books. Don't be waiting to make it perfect, because they're not making it perfect. So if anyone's waiting for permission to do your own books, I give you the permission.
That is so weird. I didn't have to go to editor school. I learned that just by looking at it when I started working as a journalist.
Tit Goblin asks, how much did your friendship with Chris cost this week? Well,
Everything.
2 of them were $5 and 2 of them were $4. So my friendship with Chris cost me $18 this week. Werewolf says I had the first 3 trades and 19 until the end in floppies. Well, you can't buy X-ray specs or send off for priceless stamps anymore. I don't like modern. That's because they're all house ads. They're pointless. And you do them like any indie book knows that you put the previews and the house ads at the end. That's a preview of some other. You do it at the end. And I actually will look at them at the end. Because I'm done with the story. There's a few more pages. You'll glance through them, see what's in the back, see what's coming up. But it's like to put them in the middle is just, I don't know why in a million years Marvel and DC are still doing that.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. And considering that, at one point house ads were basically fillers because you couldn't sell the ad space, or an ad got pulled, you got to put something there. You
Yeah.
put together a house ad. Now that is all full of house ads.
Editor to writer and artist. Don't forget to pad it out for 6 issues. That's their advice. 62 says, I wait for the TPB. It's so much better to read without stupid ad. Yeah. There's no.
See, another reason to be smart.
By smart, he means the asshole.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that's one of the reasons I have no interest in buying Marvel and DC comics. It's like, they're why? I don't get it. It makes no sense having ads interrupt the flow of your comic. It can't be good for a reader. Tit Goblin, I'm glad Chris's covers got done before he died in the tariff wars. I think I just saw a post from him. He's a late last minute guest at like South Carolina Con this weekend. He's going to be tabling with his studio mate, Randy Green.
I didn't see that.
So if you want to catch Chris, check out his Facebook. Let me flip over to his Facebook and see.
And I'll be at a convention this weekend with my old high school. Every year they have this thing called Fair Festival. So it's it's almost like a craft fair. So it's a little bit of everything that the school does, and the tables will be with both current students and then alumni, and then other people from the comic and various art industries. And I'll be doing a couple of panels, doing I believe a portfolio review is one of the panels, and then the other panel is I think a demonstration of the artwork that I do. Oh, okay.
Huh. That sounds like fun. If you want to meet Wilson, go to
High School of Art and Design.
High school, was that? Is that up in the 50s?
57th.
57.
And
East side, west side?
I want to say Lexington, but it actually may be on 2nd Avenue. Now that I think about it. 2nd Avenue and 56th Street. That side of the street, yes.
I think the Society of Illustrators is up near there, too. It's on the east side, I think, in the 50s.
It's on the east side, but it's closer to, it's off Lexington, like on the opposite side, so to speak.
But it's only like 52 or 53, right?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I off the top of my head, I don't recall, but
that's
the great thing about the internet. You could definitely look it up to go. The Society of Illustrator, I know, is having another thing of comic book artwork being displayed.
Chris is at SC Comic Con, South Carolina. I just love. What is Facebook? Hey, don't pretend you're young, timey-wimey limey. We know. Comic Crack already told us there's no young people in this comment section. Everybody knows what Pan and Scan is. Don't pretend you don't know what Facebook is.
Well, he's a time traveler. He came from a time where there were no social media and got thrust into the future by the time Facebook was no longer relevant. They skipped all that. Like me in The Crossing.
Skipped it all. Here's another first issue, an interesting book I got this week called Polis, Polis, or Police, I don't know, Polis. And they call it a double-sized debut issue, but there's an awful lot of backstory in the end of it, which I haven't read, might never. But it was interesting. It's about something I've never heard of. A protopian vision. They're going to do a series of one shot. They call it an anthology. It's AWA and Future Fic. And it says it's a collection. I don't know where it appeared first. But it turns out, as it mentions, almost, I don't think they mentioned Star Trek in here, but I will. Like, Star Trek is the only vision of the future that's positive. Most visions of the futures are dystopias. And they talk about how most visions of the future are either utopian or dystopian. And most stories are dystopian because there's more action in them. But protopian is a vision of the future that isn't dystopian. It's not utopian. It's kind of seeing how the world is going to move forward from here, but not in a dystopian way, in a let's figure out what's going to happen and what positive things can happen. So this is a story about climate change has damaged a lot of Earth. But they built these floating cities. This one's not floating right now because it turns out that what saved them was the fact that they could go underwater and avoid hurricanes. So here it is surfaced. Let me get the page to show you.
Very
Here
Stargate Atlantis.
Surfaced. And here's the land. So what happened was, there's a little nice diagram of the city there. What happened was at some point, and this takes place in the United States, well, on the coast of Florida, I think this is. There's people still living on the land. There's hurricanes hitting Florida all the time. And the people that are living on the land, they're living a more dystopian lifestyle. But the people living on the floating city aren't. They're all cooperating and they grow all their food in the city. And the cities kind of go around and pick up people if they can. Like, this is the story of like two people who were sort of living on the land and fighting. The one young girl, her father just got killed by these raiders. So she wants to go onto the floating, and people, and like nobody's looking to, there's no federal government anymore. Everything's local kind of people. So there's, of course, bad people running places, and we didn't get a big look at it. But if you're living on the city, you're living a pretty good life. If you're living on the floating city. And they invite people because they got room for people. So they invite people on who want to come on. And once people come on, they're like, no, put all your old grudges behind you. So it's kind of looking at the future and saying, what good things can happen during it. And the floating city is one of them. So I enjoyed this thoroughly. I look forward to more of whatever this series is going to be. AWA Studios and Future Fic Studios. They're both studios. Wow. Let's see. Ooh. Yeah, Axel Alonso is the chief creative officer. Printed in Canada. At least the tariffs aren't going to be in Canada, so we can get our Canadian printed comics at normal prices, at least for a while.
Some of them. Many comic books are printed in China.
Well, the collected editions are all China. The most of the flop DC and Marvel prints their regular comics, and most still at Quebec Corps, which has a different name now.
Right.
Which I can't remember all of a sudden, but I know it. But yeah, all those omnibuses coming from China. Oof.
And I think, well, at one point, I don't know if they still do, image books were printed in China.
I don't know if they're regular comics are. I don't have to look at one. Do I have one here? I was a fashion school. I'm not keen on those board goers. I don't want to be assimilated. You'll be on the Florida coastline dealing with hurricanes and fighting off bandits. Yeah. Floppies come from Quebec. Let's see. Published by Image Comics Office, Portland. Comics logos, no part of the publication by any. All names. There's no printed in. Oh, printed in Canada, yeah. So the image, the floppies are printed in Canada too.
All right.
I think it's all the collected editions that are printed in China. All the books. Definitely all the hardcover books. Definitely. Solisco, that's its name now.
Solisco?
Solisco. That's who Bad Idea published with too. Solisco. Let's see another Chris Giarrusso cover. Moon Knight, Fist of Khonshu. I think there's going to be 16 of these altogether. Who do we have here? Namorita, the Owl, Nightmare, Mystique, Orca, Moon Knight, Nova. Ooh, who's that Alpha Flight guy? What's his name?
North Star.
North Star. Nightcrawler. Was that Nocturna or somebody back there?
Necra.
Necra? Who's the guy with the big hat?
That's.
I recognize him. I don't know where from. Moonstone?
No. He's a Defenders villain, isn't he? He's a Defenders villain, I think. Yeah.
I recognize him. I have no idea. Mysterio.
Right?
Overmind? Yeah, that might be it. Who's that little guy
Nightmare.
Right there? Is that Molecule Man?
Molecule Man, yeah. Nightmare.
Yep.
And
Misty Knight.
Yeah. And on the left, that little guy at the bottom on the left is a show the other side of the please. Oh, there's a that's Fastos. Is an Eternal from the second series.
He can't be an F. He's got to be an M. Or somewhere.
Really?
Around. Who's that woman?
Fastos.
Who's that woman in blue,
Nebula.
Yellow? Nebula?
Blue, no, in red and yellow. That's Miss Marvel. That's Sharon Ventura before she was turned into a thing.
Who's that bald guy back there?
It's Moondragon.
Okay. Let's see. This issue was
that's the costume. That's the costume that Moondragon wore when she was in the New Defenders.
Once again, just a weird issue. Because I guess Moon Knight takes place. The Unstoppable Wasp is in it. And it takes place, I guess Moon Knight has a team now. And some of them are villains. And here's the team pretending to be villains. The Pool Party, Fake Deadpool, The Chalk, 8-Ball, and The Pocket.
What?
And the whole plot is, and these there seems to be a lot of flashbacks happen too in these Marvel comics. Who's doing this one?
The Pool Party, because they're playing pool, they're not in a swimming pool. Oh my God.
Yeah. I don't know where the credits are. You got to search for the credits in these books. But anyway, there it is. The writer is Jed MacKay. The artist is Domenico Carboni. color artist Rachel Rosenberg, letterer VC's Corey Pettit.
I guess Jed McKay finally figured out that how boring his writing is, so he tried to spice it up with something funny, and he failed.
And the art, the storytelling is very chaotic, and that's kind of on purpose. So, but it leads to a couple of strange double page spreads that aren't really double page spreads. But the plot is that for some reason, there's a new drug on the street. Whatever. And Moon Knight and 8-Ball get it in their head that Hank Pym should be able to create a antidote to this drug, whatever it is. But Hank Pym isn't answering Moon Knight's phone calls or whatever. So the plan they come up with is to pretend to be villains, break into Hank Pym's daughter's lab, and pretend to threaten her so Hank Pym shows up, and then they can ask him to synthesize that drug. And they're like, and one of them is even like, Hank Pym's daughter is a badass secret assassin. Do you really think we're going to scare her? And she's like, no, we're not going to scare her. We're going to scare her dad. So sure enough, Hank Pym, and what kills me too is like Hank Pym immediately shows up, and I don't know who this fake Deadpool is. Apparently he's a werewolf. But the first thing he does is put, I don't know, it's not a bullet, it's some sort of bee through his head. It's like Hank Pym shows up and immediately murders someone, even though he got better. But Hank Pym doesn't know that. It's like he just shows up and murders. Not to mention, how creepy is it that Hank Pym has his daughter's lab under surveillance? And I'm just like, nobody mentions that it's creepy that this guy has his daughter under surveillance. Why? So eventually it's they fight for a little while. Then Hank Pym's like, all right, I'll make your. He's like, this is the stupid way you came up with to get my attention? He's like, all right, I'll make your stupid antidote. But it was just like weird. It was like, that's a plot? I guess. Like I said, I just didn't get lucky with the Chris Giroux. I covers this batch. The art was kind of cool. Once again, very wonky, very kind of all sorts of angled panels everywhere, which he did mostly okay, but once again, the ads interrupting his panel layouts really didn't help. But so I think I was if I had to rate, let's say I got one more. If I had to rate them so far, West Coast Avengers, then Moon Knight, then Thor. And neither of them was good. So it was like, It's a good thing Marvel gave up on continuity all those years ago. 62
Sure.
left evil. Yeah. I don't even know what to say to that, because some people gave up on continuity, some didn't. When the boss, tells you we don't care about continuity, that's really the lay of the land, and he did. But it's like strange. Tit Goblin, I was almost expecting Monster and Skull Island to get tariffed. Godzilla, 650% more expensive. Reed Mothra, Riff Gamera, Slab King G, and Tariff Dolphin in Flamingo Island. But it was such a weird week for, like I said, 4 Marvel comics, 4 first issues, and Godzilla second issue. It's like not a usual week at all for me. Did you read any other Marvels this week, Paolo, besides
No.
West Coast Avengers?
But it's probably a good idea to read new DCs. So There's a new Resurrection Man by Ram V.
Okay.
So that's probably going to be interesting.
It could be good.
Because I always like the concept of Resurrection Man.
What was this concept again? I remember
It's-
hearing it before, but I don't remember it.
Okay, so he dies every issue and gets brought back to life next issue with a new set of powers and sometimes a different appearance.
That's sort of like Dial H for Hero, only with death.
Yeah, and he's amnesiac and he doesn't remember why he has powers. So that's the original series from the late 90s. So yeah, that thing is a mixture of the Immortal Man and Dial H, because the Immortal Man would also die and come back to life, and he was a bit obscure, so people wouldn't remember it.
Mm-hmm. Werewolf says, I blame Crisis, not just for continuity, but everything. Grr. Continuity. Crisis tried to fix continuity. So I don't know if we can blame that. Tit Goblin says, I wanted to buy Absolute Martian Manhunter because the art was doing cool stuff, but it was all sold out. Ah, well. Got to pre-order or you're in trouble. But Crisis tried to fix continuity. I think I've said this before, but I haven't said it in a while. Attempts to have a major overhaul of continuity never works because it'll always get subverted. Because if someone at Marvel or DC has enough power to say, we're going to do a Crisis on Infinite Earths and redo our whole continuity, in order to keep it straight, you'd need a continuity cop. And the person who has the actual power to be able to say we're going to overhaul everything does not want to be a continuity cop. And the writers are always going to undermine the continuity. That is the nature of writers. They don't want to follow the stupid rules that someone came up with just because. So they will always undermine those stupid rules, and the new cleaner continuity will not hold. That's how it always happens, without fail. Happened to Crisis, happened to any time you want to clean up continuity. Even when you start a new universe like the Ultimates, continuity will get muddy.
Yeah, you go in there with a plan of what's going to happen in the next 5 years. Yeah, no, it's not. But that's the problem with every universe that was introduced as a set of books.
And if you actually
like
do hire someone as a continuity cop, like Peter Sanderson, no one's going to listen to them because they don't have any power.
Right.
Yep.
No power. What were you saying, Paolo?
Well, most of the universes that were introduced since the 1980s, they have failed because they were pre-planned. You can't do a pre-planned universe.
No.
The Wildstorm functioned for many years because it wasn't pre-planned. Jim Lee just came up with the Wildcats, and then he would come up with some new concepts and introduce something here and there. So that one worked. Spawn was actually always based on Spawn. So Rob kind of did the same thing as Jim Lee because he wasn't really that concerned with writing itself. But everything else, the new universe at Marvel, the
CrossGen, I think, is an example of one.
CrossGen.
Originally, they stuck to the plan, but eventually they had to branch out. And the writers, like Mark Waid, resented having to put the CrossGen plan into ruse. So he mostly ignored it.
Yeah. Comics Greatest World at Dark Horse.
Yeah.
The Ultraverse at Malibu. especially then after they got bought by Marvel.
Oh, yeah. What's that old saying? A battle plan never survives first contact.
Mm-hmm.
Or Mike Tyson, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And getting punched in the face is getting monthly comics out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So yeah, a plan is just a guideline. And let's see, the last Chris Giarrusso cover is X-Men. So we got a Magneto on this cover. We got a Magneto. So the Living Laser over there. Loki, Craven, Lockjaw.
Maelstrom.
Who's that guy there?
Maelstrom.
Maelstrom.
He fought the Thing once, and then he showed up in Roger Stern's Avengers.
Oh, is that Magic with a sword
Magic.
back there?
Looks like it's
Yep.
Magic.
Yeah.
What else we got here?
Multiple Man.
Magma.
Magma.
Is that Magma? Who's the pink guy?
I'm not sure. Is that Crow?
I don't
He
know.
looks like Crow, but why is he naked?
Ha! Machine Man,
Curse.
Nighthawk,
Killer
Long
Shrike.
Shot.
No, that's Killer Shrike.
Oh, it's Killer Shrike. Okay.
Yeah, why is Longshot flying?
The Mad Thinker and his awesome android.
Yeah.
Lockheed.
Mhm.
Madcap.
Yeah.
Oh, Madcap.
Kingpin.
Kingpin. Claw.
Multiple Man.
Craven. A couple of multiple man.
Yeah.
Who's that guy next to Machine Man?
Curse. He was created by Walter in his Thor run.
Okay.
He was an undead black dark elf.
Mr. Fantastic's foot,
Yep.
which we can't connect to anything.
Oh, you just know you have to do when you have all the comics, you have to do a video with all the covers. You have to open the comics like this, potentially damaging, so that they're no longer 9.8s. Should have bought a reading copy.
We got 2 copies. My friendship with Chris should have cost me $36 this week.
Mm-hmm.
And here we go. This X-Men was okay. This may have been the best of the bunch. And it was this is the Alaska X-Men in here.
Mm.
And they're pretty much just searching for a missing kid in Alaska. That's the whole comic.
Nice.
Nothing more than that. Searching for a missing kid. Oh, here's an ad for Godzilla versus X-Men #1. See, who's drawing this one? Oh, Fabian's writing it. Emilio Laso. If Nick Bradshaw was drawing all of them, I'd probably buy all of them, but he's not. Are you guys familiar with Nick Bradshaw?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's kind of an Art Adams type guy. I've read some of his indie stuff here and there, and I'm not sure who this character is. What's her name? Jen, how are you doing? I guess.
Who's Jen?
I'm not sure who Jen is, but I think she transforms into different animals. Because I'm amazing. Hank, I thought it'd take time to practice, but my body just knows what to do. Well, this is Hank McCoy. It would appear that when you alter your taxonomic kingdom, the new physiological features are accompanied by certain instinctual knowledge. Fascinating, really. Between your hawk eyes and your instinctual prey drive, your raptor form should help you. So I guess she's some sort of shapeshifter who can change into animals and have some animal instincts when she does. But I still don't know who she is. But this was just sort of a search and rescue issue, though I don't think they actually rescued anyone. Is that the Juggernaut or Juggernaut Jr.?
That's Juggernaut.
That's just Juggernaut. Juggernaut Jr. has not been in the comics.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
I thought there was more than one Juggernaut now. Is all.
No,
There is an
J2 was
occasion.
MC2.
Yeah, Juggernaut's son is MC. From the future, but there've been a couple of people having the Juggernaut's powers.
Yeah. Okay.
Latest one is Spider-Man.
All right.
Silly bitch, your weapons cannot harm me.
Let me see. This is by Jed McKay. Ryan Stegman is penciling it. He's good. I think he's done some Invincible work. Ryan Stegman and J.P. Mayer are the inkers. The colorist is Marte Gracia. Marte Gracia.
Gracia. Marte
Gracia?
Gracia.
Gracia.
You're welcome.
Gracia.
Gracia.
No,
I'm either too hard or too soft on that C.
The C is pronounced like a TH because
Gracia?
it's Spanish.
Ah. Marte Gracia.
You see, people in Spain don't speak Spanish like the rest of the Spanish-speaking world.
Those fools?
You know how you guys are always complaining that the British don't know how to speak English?
Uh-huh.
Well, that's what the Mexicans say about Spaniards. So the C is pronounced like a TH. Gracia.
Gracia. Ryan Clayton Cowles as the letterer. Well, let's see. Designed by Jay Bowen. Martin Biro, assistant editor. Annalise Pizza, associate editor.
The Z is also pronounced like a CH. Like a TH.
Ah. What began as a simple search and rescue mission has escalated. That's next issue. Well, you know what? I'm moving this to number 1 out of the 4. I'm gonna have to do this all in my video when I get all 16 issues. This is number 1. West Coast Avengers, I think, was number 2. Moon Knight was number 3, and Thor way in the back with number 4. There's a good chance that this Thor is number 16 out of all 16. I mean, I haven't got all the other 12 yet, but that was really a clunker for me, Thor. It'd have to be a bigger clunker than that. Werewolf, but I can't believe people pay hundreds of dollars for first Spider-Gwen. I didn't know they still did. I haven't seen. Now, wasn't no. Which was it? Gwen Poole who appeared on a cover first, and then an interior, and people were chasing down the cover. I think. I don't remember where Spider-Gwen first appeared.
I don't remember.
Space 1999 girl.
But that sounds as ridiculous as making a road trip just to hunt down a Pokemon Go.
But hey, now we found out why that was really made, that game. Nintendo put out their own mapping software. So everybody searching for Pokemon Go's created the raw data for Nintendo to have their own mapping software. I heard about that a few weeks ago, or a few months ago even now. Did you hear that?
I heard something to that effect, that they were using Pokemon Go for a different reason.
Yeah, they came up with their own.
And that also that particular mapping system is more detailed than any other system.
When they needed an area mapped, they just put Pokemon there. And people would go there and they'd get it mapped. Because all your data goes to them. How clever was that?
That doesn't obey GDPR, which I guess is why Pokemon Go is not very popular in Europe.
Want to do a read, rip, and slab? Pick a decade for us, Paolo.
1990s.
I'll use this new present or invite that just popped up today to look at an image file instead of using my 1990s. Let's see. Let's go 1992 May. We have got Dark Horse presents 62 with Frank Miller and Sin City. We've got Wolverine Save the Tiger #1 with Sam Keith. And we have got Lobo's Back #2 by Simon Bisley. Some good art in these choices.
Mm-hmm.
The only one I own is Dark Horse presents 62.
Well,
Pretty sure
Wolverine Save the Tiger is it reprints the Marvel Comics Presents storyline.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so I would have had the Marvel Comics Present story. Chances are I had Lobo's Back. I don't know if I had that Dark Horse Presents. I was buying it at that time. I just don't recall if I had gotten that one.
Another snap decision by Tip Goblin. He's going to read Wolverine, rip Sin City, woohoo, slab
Wow.
Lobo. Yep. DHP.
I'm going to slab DHP because that's just a great cover.
That is a fun cover.
That looks great.
I wonder if that's the end of the Sin City story, because he does end up on the electric chair.
Right. Maybe. I would read Wolverine, Save the Tiger, because it's going to be the full story.
Mm-hmm.
And that means I would have to rip Lobo's back. Straight down the center. So there's a piece of Lobo on either side.
Right down the butt cheeks.
Right down the
One butt cheek on each side.
But it's Lobo. So that means it's going to mutate into two of them.
Yeah, I'm going to read Dark Horse Presents and slab Wolverine. And I'm going to rip Lobo because it's Lobo.
I'm going to replace Tiger, because I think that's who that is in the Wolverine book. Or is that his girlfriend from the origin?
No, that's she hadn't appeared yet.
What exactly is happening on that cover?
Wolverine is coming out of the pier in Madripoor.
And what is the woman doing? And where's the blood coming from? Her butt?
She is supposed to be holding on. She's supposed to be holding on to him, and Wolverine's put her in between his chest and his right leg.
Okay. So he's climbing up out of the water with her.
Yeah.
Holding her.
Where is that blood coming from out of her butt?
I think it's...
Or is that her dress?
That's her dress.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That makes more sense then.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to replace the woman with the dolphin.
No.
The Wolverine went into the water to get a dolphin.
Instead of rescuing the dolphin, he'll now be putting him in danger because he's not in the water.
And I would put the flamingos hanging out on the chair on the Frank Miller cover because they're there to watch the execution.
I'm going to dolphin the pier. So Wolverine is holding on to a dolphin. And the flamingos are going on Lobo's left arm.
I'm putting the flamingos
so that they can look at Lobo's butt.
The flamingos are going to be on the Wolverine cover. One is going to be on her feet and the other is going to be on her butt. So they're standing on her. And of course, I'm going to dolphin Marv on the Sin City cover.
Oh, that's a good idea. I didn't even think of that. Oh, that's a good one.
And I'm going to slab Lobo's back because that is a wonderfully grotesque and disturbing cover. I mean, that cover just creeps me out. So I like it. Not a lot of covers creep me out. Just looking at that one goes, ooh. I'm going to read Dark Horse Presents again. I haven't read it since 1992 May, and which means I'm going to have to tear up Wolverine Save the Tiger.
Let me see what's what are the other stories in the Dark Horse Presents.
Yeah, what do we got?
Okay, so Sin City. So that is the final chapter of the original Sin City story.
Okay.
Wait, no, it's an entire Sin City issue. It's 48 pages.
Whoa, it's 48 pages of Sin City. So it wraps up Sin City and the interesting.
Right, because the previous issue there were 8 pages, and that thing's been coming out in 8-page installments.
Yeah.
But this one is all Sin City.
All Sin City all the time.
In issue numbers in the next issue as a Mobius cover.
Oh wow. Yeah, I think I did a video showing off all of the covers from Dark Horse Presents Volume 1. It was years ago, so I don't remember it. I'm pretty sure I did it, but it's been so long. I just felt like looking at them one day and said, I'll make a video. This will give me an excuse to look at them. Tiv Goblin, I have all of those. Wow. And Werewolf says, read DHP, rip the other two. Now you got to slab one. That's the game. You can't rip the other two. If you're not going to play the game, we're not giving you credit.
You cannot enter the contest to win the contest to win prizes.
Yeah.
We don't have many rules, but just that one. We even let continuity go as well.
If you're going to play the game, you got to play the game. Well, let's see. How do I get rid of this now? It's different. Oh, we'll go over here. Remove. There we go. There we go. They just changed the interface a little, I notice.
Mm-hmm.
Where it used to be share screen, there's now a little, well, actually, present is still there, but there's now a present or invite box next to our faces down the bottom.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Something new. Something borrowed. Something blue. So how much Dark Horse Presents have you two read? Any? Did you used to collect it or ever see it anywhere?
I used to pick it up. I would get that one definitely at Hanley's.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I collected the ones that had remember there was Issues of Concrete.
Yep.
That I picked up. I know the Aliens stories.
Okay.
There was a couple of Godzilla ones. I want to say Creature of the Black Lagoon, or I might be mixing that up with it. It was drawn by Art Adams anyway, but I don't know.
There was also a more mainstream one called like Dark Horse or something. There was like Dark Horse Presents, which went on for a long time. And then when they started doing those licenses, some of which appeared in Dark Horse Present, there was also a second title just called like Dark Horse or something like that. And it often had like aliens in it. They had more of the licensed mainstream stuff in it.
Okay. So I got those. I know I had to get some of the Sin City ones. And then when they had their own superhero lines, did it start in Dark Horse Presents?
No, I don't think it did.
No.
Comics Greatest World, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, because they were $1 when they had their own books. But I don't recall if they also appeared in the.
No,
Werewolves don't play games; they rip. LOL.
Yeah, I've read stuff that was originally published in Dark Horse Presents, but not any of the issues. Like Trekker by Ron Randall.
Yeah. My favorite thing that was published in Dark Horse Presents and then went on to its own little graphic novel is something nobody knows exists. What is the name of it? The Fall by Ed Brubaker and Jason Lutz. And it appeared in like maybe 3 or 4 issues of Dark Horse Presents. And it was right before Ed Brubaker kind of started doing work for DC. And it was right before Jason Lutz started doing Berlin. And it was just this cool little true crime story about a woman who fell to her death off an overpass of a road, and a guy who kind of gets obsessed with her death and starts trying to figure out if she jumped or was pushed. And it was just a story I really enjoyed in Dark Horse Presents. And then, like a few months later, they put it out in its own, I think, like more magazine-sized volume. And this is like sometime in the early '90s. I'd have to look up exactly when. And I'm like the only one I know who remembers it. But if you ever run across it, The Fall by Ed Brubaker and Jason Lutz, pick that one up. Tit Goblin says Bob the Alien is hands down my favorite Dark Horse Presents story. I remember that one. Who did Bob the Alien?
I don't know.
I don't remember. And what was that one? Celia and Delia? It was like maybe within the first 20 issues of Dark Horse Presents it happened. And I don't know if it was European, but it always reminded me of a European comic because it had it was black and white. The art was sort of Mobius influenced. And I can't remember if it was the future or I just remember Celia and Delia walking around. But I always kind of liked that one. But that was the early days.
Bob the Alien was by somebody named Richard Rice.
Richard Rice, okay. Mm-hmm. Bob, I remember his art was very kind of sketchy and loose.
Also, was Scud, Disposable Assassin, part of Dark Horse?
Ooh, no.
Scud was self-published, I think.
Was it? Okay.
Or was it Renegade Press?
It could have had like one episode in Dark, because that happens sometimes. But I'm not sure. Occasionally you'd see like some indie comic you've heard of appear in Dark Horse Presents for an 8-page story.
Yeah, a Flaming Carrot is what appeared in Dark Horse Presents.
Okay. And I may have read the Flaming Carrot that way. Ooh. And then you also have the Mask.
Right. That appeared in there for us. DHP.
Delia and Celia. Here it is.
There we go.
Appears in issue number 21, and it's by Gary Davis.
Oh, it's Gary Davis. Okay. He is English, right?
I don't know.
I think. I'm thinking of Guy Davis.
Yeah.
He's English.
Okay. So, yeah. So the first Celia and Delia is actually in issue number 16.
Okay.
And did they also do Rusty?
No, it isn't.
There's something Rusty.
That's. Did it appear in the HP?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Gary Davis did something before Celia and Delia. So in number 16, there's something called Paleo Love.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that.
And now here's the best one. The oldest work by Gary Davis that I can find here is in issue in volume 5, number 7 of Heavy Metal in 1981.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like I said, I remember him from those Celia, and I remember Paleo Love. Now that you mention it, and what were you asking, Wilson?
Big Guy and Rusty the Boy Robot, was that Dark Horse Presents?
I think they may have had a story or two, but they had their own series. Sometimes to like promote other series, like they'd start I think Aliens started off in Dark Horse Presents, but they were always going to have their own series.
Right. Then of course Hellboy
right.
had some stuff as well.
Well, I think the Goon too. Like around issue 100, yeah. The Goon was in Dark Horse Presents. I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here. I'm just trying to remember some covers. And it's like, because they've done so many things. Some stuff would start there, or I may think, well, maybe because I saw the ad in there for something.
Mm-hmm. DHP. I enjoyed buying that. That was on my pull list for the whole length. I remember when the first issue came out. I bought the first issue at my LCS, and I don't know when did that start? 86, 84? Bought the first issue, and it was on my pull list. The whole volume 1, volume 2, volume 3 were all on my pull list. The whole runs. And that's one I don't want to give up too. I'm not sure if I'll ever read it again, but I just like it. And I can always pick it up and look through stuff. That's what's good about Dark Horse Presents. Was that the longest running anthology comic? Was there anything longer than it?
1986 through 2000 is volume 1.
Like Marvel Comics Presents had a lot of issues, but it didn't run for as many years. How many issues did Marvel Comics Presents run?
175.
175. That's a lot of issues.
But it was bi-weekly.
Right. So
This is the first on the cover of the first one. Doesn't look familiar at all.
DHP ran for 157, up to issue 157, but there were 6 issues number 100. The 100 number 100, number 100 -1, -2, -3, -4, and -5.
And there was also volume 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Let's see. How many did they run? Let me check my.
And issue number 157 was published. Okay, so this thing was interrupted here somewhere. No.
157 issues, then 36 issues, then 33 issues.
Okay.
So that's a lot of issues. The volumes 2 and 3 came years after volume 1. But I still bought them. Even though they were square bound. I'm not a fan of those square bound comics. By the way, Wilson, I actually got a text from Julio this week.
Oh, yeah?
All it said is, "Are you still reading Usagi Yojimbo?" And I wrote him back, "I sure am," and he never said anything else.
Amazing. And not how you doing, how's it going? Like, are you still doing this? Yes. All right, good to know.
Not even an all right, good to know. Didn't even.
Yeah. He asked a question, you answered it, and that was it.
That was it.
That's
he
friendship.
got his curiosity satisfied. He's done.
Right, so Heavy Metal magazine has been in continuous publication. Was in continuous publication from 1977 to 2023, and there are 320 issues.
Well, I don't know about continuous publication, but yeah, that's a lot. It had been gone for years. But yeah, that's a long-running anthology for sure. How many issues of the new Heavy Metal actually came out?
I don't know.
Do you know? All I know is it was like $14 an issue. So I was like, no thanks.
Yeah, but it continued the same number. So this thing was not. It was not. Yeah. 20 was April 2023. Yeah, before that it was November 2022. Before that it was June. 317 was May. April. All right. So here it was monthly. Let's see. Where's 298? 298 was March 2020.
Oh, by the way, I finally registered with the Grand Comic Book Database
Ah,
because I wanted to put that Little Lotta cover up there.
you can't because there's no comic for it.
Boom. I'd have to
Mm.
make an entry for the comic, which
You can't make the entry for the comic because the comic does not exist.
you can make
The
an entry for the comic. It just
n-
you can't enter any information. I mean, it allows you to enter information, but there is none. It like wants to know the indicia date and the this and the that.
Right.
And the this.
Right, because all we have is a cover, an unpublished cover. You don't have any information. You can't add
Right.
it to the Grand Comics database. What you should check is see if your indie comic has all the issues there.
That's what I was going to do next. Put my own information in for my own indie comic. I was going to do that. But yeah, I wanted to enter. I'm like, oh, it's not a comic. How do I? Then I was like, I was going to enter it into the error process.
Hmm.
But they're like, yeah, we never checked this. I'm like, oh, okay. 62 says Heavy Metal and Metal Hurlant both had Kickstarters. I have a tub full of heavy metals, including the first 2+ years. So I went with Metal Hurlant, which would be 4 big issues for 1 year. Cool.
Yeah, Metal Hurlant is always trying to get started, even in France. I think there's been, it should be on the 4th attempt by now.
I have a collected edition of the Metal Hurlant that did Humanoids put it out?
Yeah, around 2001, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was only
Yeah.
Wasn't great. It was okay. I might give that one to one of my students.
Yeah, there was a Portuguese edition lasted for 5 issues.
Uh-huh.
Which I have.
Yeah, I have the collected edition. Probably has about 5 issues in it.
But I think 9 or 11 came out in the US at the time.
Oh, okay. We'll have to pull it off a shelf and see. Mm-hmm. Metal Hurlant.
Metal Hurlant.
If you say so.
So are there going to be new issues of Heavy Metal out?
No.
Besides the Kickstarter? No.
Yeah, I'm not even sure who's putting those out. I'm not sure if they're here in
the Kickstarter I'd like to see hit the comic shops, which I don't think it has, is they put out a collection of all the covers from The Wicked and the Divine. That I didn't even know about it until months after the Kickstarter was done. And usually these days it's like I don't even want to do Kickstarters because it always comes out cheaper. But I guess everything that's a Kickstarter doesn't come out. And I have not seen this Wicked and the Divine covers collection come out. Tit Goblin says there was a time in the 90s when the closest store I could get heavy metal was St. Pierre and Milquion. The Wicked and the Divine Compendium is coming out soon. Now, I think, but that's the comic issues. I'm talking about just the covers.
Wait, you had to go into St. Pierre and Miquelon for heavy metal? Really?
Sorry, we don't have that. Go to France.
Yeah, right. Because those islands are off the coast of Quebec, or off the coast of Newfoundland, but they're French.
I used to get heavy metal in the mid to late 90s via a mail subscription, because that was the time in the US when magazines were booming and subscriptions were super cheap. And so I could subscribe to heavy metal for like $8 a year. But they got my name wrong. And for years and years, I knew who heavy metal sold their mailing list to, because I'd get, things in the mail for Jargo Osborne, because that's how heavy metal had me down. Jargo. So I'd get heavy metal. I got heavy metal for 3-4 years to mailed to Jargo Osborne at my address.
Well, that's a good pen name.
Yeah, it's a
If
solid
if
name.
Yeah.
if you had ever done anything for heavy metal, you would have signed it Jargo Osborne.
There we go. They would have known exactly who I was.
You could do a set of fake covers, the forgotten works of Jargo Osborne.
There we go. Maybe.
And that's
But there
where
was
you
a
sneak in
time.
that Lolita cover.
There was a time in the 90s where I must have had subscriptions to somewhere between 10 and 18 magazines a month. Because magazine subscriptions were so cheap. And I love to read magazines. I mean, we're talking like $6 for 12 issues of magazine. I probably had subscriptions to 4 or 5 video game magazines alone. Just because, like, and do you remember Electronic Gaming Monthly?
Yes.
It would be like, 75 cents or $1 an issue for that subscription. It was like crazy how cheap they were.
I know I had a subscription to Omni magazine.
Jargo is
And
bizarro,
I
Jared.
think Starlog,
Starlog,
Comic Scene.
Comic Scene. You could get 10 LPs for a penny too. I got the cassettes. The key was, I would actually get some pretty cheap cassettes from Columbia House because you got the 10 for the penny,
Right.
but then you had to buy like 6 more at full price over the next, I don't know how long. But they send you a catalog every month, but you had to be sure to send back the thing that says, I don't want this. Because what they did to make their money was every month they'd send you a new catalog to choose from. But they made it so by default, they would charge you for whatever was that month's prime music thing, whatever the big album was that month, unless you sent the card back. So that's how they got people, was all of a sudden you'd get a bill for $20 for this album you didn't want. So you had to be sure to send those back, and you'll be in. And then you could buy other stuff at half price. Like they'd send you, like in the catalog, like, oh, half off everything this month. But often they'd be like, this half off doesn't count towards your 4 full price things you had to buy. But that was okay, because you'd be buying stuff for half price for a while. And maybe every now and then, and when you wanted to quit, you'd, throw one full price thing in, but it doesn't matter. You were getting the other stuff. Sometimes they'd send you like third off. If you buy these 4 albums, you could get them all for the price of 1 album. And you'd be like, all right. So, and of course there were the people who just got the free ones and then never talked to them again. They ignored everything that they sent to them. But I actually bought quite a few cassettes, I should say, from Columbia House.
Yep, I had a subscription to that as well. Yeah,
Mhm.
so I was part of that, and then just trying to choose all of them, trying to decide which ones. Into a lot of tapes from my music scores, movie scores.
Ah, you're a soundtrack person?
Yeah, because it was always good to just have something playing in the background,
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
See, I was never a soundtrack person. I just like, and there, at Marvel, there were a lot, pretty, artists. A lot of them listen to soundtracks in the background. But I just never could. Never my thing. I want some lyrics. Someone singing sweetly to me. That sort of thing.
I could listen to experimental jazz at work.
I've listened to various things at various times, but mostly I never soundtrack. I could throw some holy minimalism on. I've done that in the past.
I would go through different phases. So it'd be like,
Yeah.
this is my heavy metal month, or this is my soundtracks, or weird eclectic things like William Shatner's album,
Yeah.
which was just fascinating in how weird
This
it
Tambourine
was.
Man. This Tambourine Man.
Then there would be like musicals. Sometimes
Yep.
there'll be musicals.
You know, the one classical composer I could listen to in the background all the time was J.S. Bach.
Okay.
I don't know much about classical music, but he was the guy. I can put the Brandenburg concertos on and keep working. So most classical composers, but J.S. Bach. See, 62 Lefty says nowadays you put some Hans Zimmer and clear the room.
No. You put Ennio Morricone.
You put on who is that? The Danish Royal Orchestra doing The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Did you see that viral video?
Yeah.
From a few years ago? That's a good one. Wah, wah, wah. Well, we should begin to wrap it up. By the way, I was just looking into something with was one of my students. I was telling about my Game Boy camera. Game Boy digital my first camera from the late 90s, really low res because it's a Game Boy. And I was finding there are people now who are making usually I would take the pictures and put them on my scanner and scan in the pictures. That worked pretty well. But there's some people who have made like transfer things to transfer your pictures. And one guy even made it so he could use the Game Boy camera as his webcam. So he was mentioning he even got some balloons to go. He's like, it's really hard to get the gestures because the Game Boy is so low. The Game Boy camera is so low resolution that the OS doesn't register the gestures. But he got the balloons to go. I was like, oh, cool. That just reminded me as I'm doing the balloons, signing off. I'll have to see if I can get my Game Boy camera hooked up. But it takes some parts and some money, so I haven't done it yet. All right. Any last words from anyone?
I got nothing, but I'm at a con this weekend.
There you go. See Wilson at the High School of Art and Design con on 57th Street in Manhattan.
Yes, if you want to look it up on the internet, it's fanfarenyc.com. I tried to put it into the comments, but it got knocked out.
Let me see.
I put it into the private chat if you want to link it from there.
Let me see if I can put it into the comments. Private chat.
A Brazilian comics historian is coming to Portugal next weekend, and he's introducing a book about the first Brazilian comic to feature American superheroes back in the late 30s.
I just put the link in the chat because I think only the host can.
Oh, okay.
And next week we'll be on Paulo's channel.
Right, because I still have 20 hours.
Yep.
I may have to try a restream to see if that works.
All right. So everybody have a good night out there. And we will catch you next time on Paulo's channel.